The tragic murder of a young pregnant woman shocked the entire city. It later became known that this crime was connected to others, and suspects were arrested. However, some aspects of the case remain mysterious, suggesting the true mastermind may still be at large. Amanda Blackburn was born in 1987 in Muskegon, Michigan. She attended school in Indianapolis, Indiana before moving with her family to nearby Elkhart in 1995. In 2006, Amanda graduated from Elkhart Christian Academy and enrolled at Pensacola Christian College in Florida. In 2008, fate brought Amanda together with Davey Blackburn. Their first date, a blind date set up by a mutual friend, was followed by attending a Christian band concert together. Davey and Amanda hit it off immediately and began dating. Davey was very religious and training to become a pastor at the time. For several years before their marriage, they dated long distance, so some issues still needed to be worked through. The couple approached this responsibly, even seeking counseling from a psychologist. Amanda was described as an extraordinarily kind person with a huge heart. Those who knew her and her husband said they perfectly complemented each other. Amanda and Davey were a happy couple who loved each other, believed in God, and lived in complete harmony. They married on August 1, 2008. After the wedding, the Blackburns settled in South Carolina, where Davey served as a pastor at New Spring Church. In 2012, they returned to Indianapolis and opened their own church geared towards youth. Soon they had a son, Weston, and 9 months later Amanda became pregnant again. Amanda was a wonderful, loving, caring wife and mother. It seemed only the best was yet to come. But everything changed on November 10, 2015. According to Davey, he woke up at 4:30 a.m. as usual and left the house around 6 a.m. to work out at a local gym while Amanda stayed home with their son. Davey said he left the front door unlocked. He finished his workout about an hour later at 7:10 a.m. On the drive home, Davey was talking to a friend on the phone. By 7:30 a.m. he was back at the house. Davey said he didn't want to wake Amanda and Weston, so he stayed in the car and continued the phone conversation. Only at 8:20 a.m., after finishing the call, did he finally go inside. Crossing the threshold, he saw 28-year-old Amanda lying face down on the living room floor in a pool of blood. She was partially undressed, her underwear next to her. Her shirt was pulled up over her head as if someone had tried to take it off. The grisly scene stunned Davey. Recovering from the shock, he looked around and couldn't find their child. He rushed upstairs to check on his son. Thankfully, Weston was unharmed and sleeping peacefully in his crib. Davey then called 911. When police and paramedics arrived, they found Amanda still alive but in critical condition. She was rushed to the hospital. It was determined that at the time of the attack, Amanda was 12 weeks pregnant. She was placed on life support and continued fighting for her life. But the next day, November 11th, her heart stopped, along with that of her unborn child. When forensic investigators began examining the crime scene, they discovered the victim's credit cards, wallet and purse chaotically scattered across the kitchen table. Among the items was a pack of cigars. Davey insisted that neither he nor his wife smoked, so the cigars didn't belong to them. Near where Amanda lay was a knocked-over lamp, a clear sign of a struggle inside the house. When calling 911, Davey reported his wife had a head wound. He was convinced she had been hit in the head with something. But the autopsy revealed the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. Amanda was shot 3 times, in the lower left arm, upper back, and a fatal shot to the back of the head. Her death was ruled a homicide. Experts also noted scratches on the victim's left cheek, an injured lip, and a missing lower tooth. This further confirmed Amanda had fought desperately for her life. Although she was partially undressed, there were no signs of sexual assault. Detectives theorized the attackers intended to but were scared off and fled the scene. Police thoroughly searched the entire house for evidence. DNA samples were taken from blood found near the body and from under the victim's fingernails. Not far from the crime scene, a roll of duct tape and headphones were discovered on the floor against a wall. In the wall behind the victim, 2 bullets were found, one in the upper back, the other in the head. The back wound was a through and through, the bullet passed through her body and lodged in the wall. Preliminary analysis determined the bullets were either .38 caliber or 9 mm. The lack of shell casings at the scene suggested a .38 revolver was used. Amanda's phone was found in the bedroom. At 7:37 a.m. she received a notification from the bank about suspicious activity. Someone was withdrawing money from her card at an ATM. Checking the victim's credit and debit cards in her wallet, investigators found that the cards for that same bank involved in the withdrawal were missing. This and subsequent events indicated the cards had been stolen. It later came to light that earlier that morning, 2 other people from the same neighborhood as Amanda and Davey called the police to report break-ins. At 5:23 a.m. on November 10, Amanda's neighbor called 911 to report a burglary at her apartment. The woman said she woke up at 4:30 a.m. to a noise and discovered her cell phone missing from the shelf. When she got up and started looking around the apartment, she saw the intruders fleeing through the sliding glass doors. Checking her other valuables, the woman immediately noticed her laptop, purse, and keys were gone. The apartment was in disarray, with plants knocked over. Later, the woman realized her car was also missing from the parking lot. The thieves had likely used the keys found in her apartment to steal it. Detectives, intrigued by this information, reviewed security camera footage from near the burglarized apartment building. The cameras showed someone entering the building. 2 unknown individuals went into the apartment while a third appeared to stay outside the door. Police also noticed the burglars turned off the camera during the crime itself. At 6:18 a.m., another victim called 911, a man who also lived on the same street as the Blackburns. He too reported a break-in. This neighbor had a security camera, but it was turned off at 5:36 a.m., so it provided no useful information for the investigation. Items stolen from his home included 4 TVs, a laptop, a Tiffany pearl necklace, a pink women's sweater, remote controls, and oddly, a bag of oranges and some bed sheets. Investigators also noted that the perpetrators apparently drank beer and wine in the house, leaving empty bottles behind before exiting through the front door. Detectives considered the possibility that all these crimes, committed one after another in the same neighborhood, could be connected, as the area was previously considered quiet and safe, with incidents rarely occurring. After the 2 aforementioned 911 calls, a report came in that Amanda was lying badly wounded on her living room floor. No security cameras could be found near the Blackburn house. So investigators began canvassing the neighborhood, asking residents if they noticed anything suspicious that day. One local said that shortly before 7 a.m., he saw a man in a black hooded sweatshirt concealing his face walking past Amanda's house. Another witness reported seeing an unknown man walking down the street, loudly talking on the phone. And around 7 a.m., yet another eyewitness saw a car being stolen, the perpetrator hooking the vehicle up to his accomplice's car. These events were captured on security cameras. A local woman also recounted that in the morning, while lying in bed, she heard 2 gunshots around 6:40 a.m., followed by a woman screaming. Naturally, the first suspect in the case was the victim's husband. However, he insisted that at the time of the attack he was at the gym. Detectives had to check his alibi, so they went to the local fitness center to verify if Davey was indeed there. His alibi checked out. Those close to Davey characterized him as a respected pastor, a decent person and model family man. None of his relatives could believe he was capable of murdering his own wife. So he was ruled out as a suspect. Meanwhile, police issued an alert for the stolen vehicle, hoping it would be an important lead to track down the perpetrator. It didn't take long to find. The car was discovered on the side of the road not far from Amanda's house. Examining the vehicle, police found an ATM receipt on the floor by the front passenger seat. It showed that at 6:36 a.m. someone had attempted a transaction but was declined. The last 4 digits of the card noted on the receipt matched Amanda's card number. This confirmed the theory that all 3 crimes were interconnected. Most likely, Amanda was the victim of a botched robbery. When she stumbled upon the intruders in her home, they decided to get rid of her as an unwanted witness. Investigators were convinced the perpetrator did not act alone. He had at least one accomplice to carry out all these crimes. This was evidenced by security camera footage from the burglarized house. Also found in the car was a pink women's sweater on the driver's side floor, the same one stolen during one of the break-ins. The trunk contained a remote control, an XXL green men's hoodie, the same bedsheets, and bags of oranges reported missing by one of the victims. Experts took DNA samples from the sweater fabric and various locations inside the car for further analysis. It was determined that Amanda was attacked almost immediately after Davey left for the gym. Because half an hour after he departed, the criminals were already trying to withdraw money using his wife's card. Police tracked down the ATM where someone tried to withdraw $500 at 6:36 a.m. and obtained the security camera footage. The video showed an unknown man behind the wheel of a silver Chrysler Sebring. The same car was captured on security cameras near Amanda's house. In the ATM footage, the perpetrator was wearing the pink sweater wrapped around his face with the hoodie pulled up over his head. Video from another ATM nearby captured the same man. He successfully withdrew $400 from the account at 6:54 a.m. By November 17, police had the DNA test results. They ran the data through the system and got a match. The DNA belonged to 20-year-old Jalen Watson. He had been released from prison on August 6 after serving time for burglary and was currently on parole. Examining Jalen's social media pages, investigators discovered his close ties to 24-year-old Diano Gordon. Coincidentally, Diano was also on parole after being imprisoned for burglary. Jalen and Diano had previously been accomplices who worked together. They became the main suspects in Amanda's murder case. Detectives reviewed the call logs from the suspects' phones. Starting at 4:40 a.m., their cell phones were pinging off towers near the first house that was robbed. Then their location was tracked by a tower near Amanda's home. Later, their phones pinged near the ATM where the stolen card was used. Continuing the investigation, police uncovered another phone number that traveled the same route as the suspects that morning. It belonged to an 18-year-old teen named Larry Taylor Jr. Larry also had a criminal history, including charges of exhibitionism and lewd behavior after he harassed a woman in a parking lot. Detectives went to Larry's home and spoke with his sister. She told police that Jalen, Diano and Larry were friends and associates. They were at her apartment the night before the robberies. The sister informed police that Jalen, Diano and Larry left her home at 3:30 a.m. on November 10. In the bathroom, investigators found a black vest that the sister said Jalen liked to wear. She confirmed that on the morning of November 10, Jalen was wearing that very vest, the same one he was recorded in by security cameras. The sister then gave police a 9mm handgun that either Jalen or Diano had brought to the apartment and left under the bed. The weapon was sent for analysis. Later, another witness was found who provided information confidentially. This informant saw Larry, Jalen and Diano that morning. Larry had his own .38 caliber revolver in his hands. The informant confirmed that Jalen was wearing a dark vest. He also described in detail how Larry broke into the first house where a woman's phone and car keys were stolen while she slept. The burglars knew they might be caught on video, so they turned the cameras off. The informant also reported that Larry talked about intending to kill that woman, afraid his face might have been captured on security cameras or that she saw him. But Jalen and Diano convinced him to leave. This saved the woman's life. However, this haul wasn't enough for the criminals. They wanted more money, so they broke into the next house. But even after the second burglary, they still felt it wasn't enough. So the men walked to Amanda's house. According to the informant, only Larry and Jalen went inside, while Diano waited in the car parked in the driveway. Based on all the evidence gathered, detectives arrested Larry, Jalen and Diano on numerous charges. Larry was indicted on 13 counts, including murder, burglary, illegal possession of a firearm, and robbery. Jalen faced 10 charges, including murder, burglary, and car theft. Diano was also charged with burglary and murder. Initially, those arrested denied involvement in the crime, but all the evidence, including their DNA at the scene, implicated them. Later in the investigation, it was revealed that Larry was also likely involved in the shooting of another man, 27-year-old Roland Gonzalez Hernandez. He was found with a head wound next to his car in the apartment complex where he lived. Witnesses told police Larry had confessed to them about a robbery and shooting in that complex, where Roland was later found. The teen robbed and shot him on November 4, a week before Amanda Blackburn's murder. Another witness reported that previously Larry had broken into yet another woman's home and raped her at gunpoint. Amanda was also found partially undressed, her underwear nearby and shirt pulled up. This confirmed that Larry had intended to rape her too, but the arrival of her husband likely scared off the intruders and they fled. After these revelations, Larry faced additional charges for Roland's murder, burglaries of other homes, and rape. Some time later, Diano and Jalen decided to make a deal with prosecutors and plead guilty. As part of the agreement, they were to testify against the most dangerous of the three, Larry, in exchange for some charges against them being dropped. According to Diano and Jalen, they hadn't initially planned to kill Amanda Blackburn, just rob the house. But the homeowner caught them in the act. The criminals panicked, unsure what to do. Diano and Jalen ran off, but Larry stayed and took decisive action. He attacked the woman, hitting her in the head with his gun, knocking her unconscious. While she was out, Larry stole her bank cards. Diano and Jalen were waiting in the car. Larry started threatening to kill Amanda if his accomplices didn't come back. Frightened, they returned to the house. Just as Larry began undressing the unconscious woman to rape her, they noticed her husband's car pulling up. The perpetrators fled. As a parting shot, Larry killed Amanda to get rid of the witness, but his accomplices didn't see this. After returning to his sister's apartment, Larry confessed to Diano and Jalen that he had murdered the woman whose house they had just robbed. He said the woman briefly regained consciousness and lunged at him. So Larry used his weapon. According to the criminal, after firing the shot he bent over the body, looked into Amanda's lifeless eyes and admired the sight of her blood flowing. Hearing his confession, the accomplices were shocked. Larry threatened them with retribution if they said anything about the murder. He kept pressuring them, reminding them they were family, so Diano and Jalen kept quiet. Thanks to the plea deal, Jalen was sentenced to 29 years in prison, and Diano to 30 years. The first trial of Larry Taylor took place only in December 2021, but its results were ruled invalid. The final trial for the murder of Amanda Blackburn was held in October 2022. The prosecution's case included testimony from Diano and Jalen, data from Larry's cell phone, and other evidence. The court found Larry Taylor guilty of murder, robbery and illegal possession of a firearm. He was sentenced to 86 years in prison. He is currently serving his sentence. The prosecution was unable to prove Larry's involvement in the rape of the other woman. However, even after the three perpetrators were convicted for the string of burglaries and Amanda's murder, her family did not believe she died as a result of a botched robbery. The victim's relatives are convinced that her husband orchestrated the murder, hiring the trio of criminals to carry it out. In the opinion of Amanda's loved ones, Dave Blackburn's behavior appears suspicious in many ways. Shortly before the tragedy, he took out a substantial life and health insurance policy on his wife, although the couple had never used insurance services before. The husband explained the need for insurance by saying Amanda was preparing to become a mother for the second time, so the policy wouldn't hurt in case of complications during childbirth. After his wife's death, Dave immediately filed an insurance claim and received a payout. He derived considerable financial gain from Amanda's death but saw nothing strange about it. Those close to the victim who attended her funeral did not notice Dave mourning the loss of his wife. He did not appear sad or distraught. On the contrary, it seemed the man latched onto this tragedy as an opportunity for fame. Dave began exploiting Amanda's death to benefit from her murder. He started his own blog, recorded podcasts, and even created a website called Nothing Wasted. Blackburn traveled the country delivering sermons, talking about his life and his wife's murder. He described Amanda's death as an event that did not happen in vain. Dave even engraved the phrase, "Nothing wasted," on her tombstone. In his blog, the man described in detail the morning he found his wife's body. Many of his statements seemed strange. Dave distanced himself from Amanda, referring to their shared home as his house. He never once mentioned their dead unborn child, as if it never existed. Another phrase from his writings drew attention. Dave wrote that he called 911 as soon as he could. No one understood what this meant or why he made this clarification about the delay in calling. And whether there was a delay at all. But there was. According to Dave's own statements to the police, he sat in the car outside the house for almost an hour before going inside. The man explained this by saying it was too early and he didn't want to wake his family, so he decided to talk on the phone in the car. However, Dave could not explain what he talked about for so long. But even this, according to Amanda's relatives, is not the strangest part. The Blackburns had a boxer dog living in the house. Neighbors whose homes were nearby clearly heard its incessant barking that morning. Most likely, this was how the dog reacted to the presence of strangers in the house and then tried to draw attention to save its owner. The loud barking made the neighbors watch the Blackburn house. Some residents heard gunshots coming from the victim's home. But Amanda's husband, who was in the driveway, apparently heard nothing and therefore was in no hurry to enter the house. Dave sat in the car, periodically getting out, peering in the windows, behaving suspiciously. Neighbors, alarmed by the dog's relentless barking, watched the house and saw Dave's actions. It all seemed extremely odd to everyone. Amanda's family is convinced that Dave deliberately stalled to make sure the robbers had left the crime scene and his wife was dead. Another aspect that worries Amanda's relatives is why the boxer living in the house did not attack the intruders who broke into the home to protect its owner but instead just barked incessantly. Amanda's family suspects that before leaving, Dave locked the dog in another room from which it could not get out. When the dog heard the commotion and gunshots in the house, it started barking to attract attention. And only later, when Dave entered the house, did he let the dog out. It's also unclear why the burglars chose the Blackburn house in the first place. After getting inside and seeing a large dog, they were strangely unafraid and continued their criminal acts. The dog did not react to them at all, but later the perpetrators were scared off by the car pulling up. This inconsistency baffles the victim's loved ones. It also seems strange that Dave abruptly changed his usual routine that day for unknown reasons. The man was always known for his punctuality and strictly adhered to his schedule. That morning he woke up as always at 4:30 a.m. but didn't leave the house until 6 a.m., although he was usually at the gym by this time. What could have delayed him at home for a whole hour is unclear. Moreover, his workout that day was oddly shorter than usual. Dave could not explain this either. Amanda's relatives stressed that for some, such details may seem insignificant, but for Dave, known for his punctuality, meticulousness, attention to detail, and high standards for himself and others, this was uncharacteristic. Another question that troubles the victim's family is why the robbers killed and intended to rape only Amanda when another woman saw them but suffered no violence. There is no evidence that Amanda actually woke up early that morning and encountered the criminals in the house. She usually got up later and immediately called her parents. But that day she didn't access her social media accounts or call anyone. It appears she was still asleep during the break-in. Amanda's family believes the robbery and attempted rape scene was staged to mislead the investigation. After all, detectives could never find another victim of sexual assault by Larry to corroborate this incident. Amanda's loved ones are also bothered that just a few days before her murder, Dave brandished a gun during his sermon. None of the parishioners understood his intent, but everyone was very frightened. This disturbing scene still troubles the victim's relatives. While examining the social media pages of the convicted criminals, Amanda's family discovered their ties to Dave and several mutual acquaintances, heightening suspicions. They speculate that Dave knew this trio of robbers who already had prior convictions for similar crimes. So it's entirely possible he turned to them for help in getting rid of his troublesome wife during their next heist. It's known that the Blackburns had issues in their relationship and often argued over Dave's heightened sexual desire. To focus on important conversations at dinner, he needed to satisfy his urges with his wife beforehand. Otherwise, he simply could not adequately process information. It's unclear how Dave coped with this problem during the day when Amanda wasn't around. The family had serious suspicions about his marital infidelity. Furthermore, Dave belittled and insulted Amanda, sometimes even shoving or hitting her. But she forgave him everything, like an obedient pastor's wife. But what outrages the victim's loved ones the most is that just a couple of years after his wife's brutal murder, Dave remarried. According to his blog, he forced himself to wait a whole year after Amanda's death and then decided he was ready for a new relationship and met Christy. In October 2016, she began attending their church. Talking with her, Dave learned that Christy lived near the house where he used to live with Amanda. The man took this as a sign from God, who had supposedly sent Christy into his life. Romantic feelings ignited between them, and within a year they were married. It turned out the neighborhood where Amanda's murder took place was well known to the three criminals involved in the case. And Dave's acquaintance with Christy happened much earlier than he claimed. They attended the same gym where Dave was the morning of his wife's murder and often crossed paths there. Several people saw them together even before Amanda's death, so romantic relations likely existed between them already at that time. Amanda's relatives believe this could be the motive for the crime. Dave wanted to get rid of a burdensome marriage while deriving maximum benefit from it. But being a deeply religious man, he couldn't simply divorce his wife, as it would cause condemnation and rejection from the community. Amanda's family tried to get justice and appealed to the police to investigate information about Dave's possible involvement in his wife's murder. But law enforcement didn't even begin to look into this angle. The case was already closed, the guilty punished, and the pastor, a respected figure in town, remained above suspicion. That's all for now. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future content. Take care and goodbye.